Welcome to the Secrets About Men Summit. What men wish you knew, but will never tell you. I'm Suzanne Oshima, and I'm a matchmaker and dating coach at Dream Bachelor and Bachelorette. I'm also the founder of Single and Stilettos. Today, we have a very special guest. He's one of my favorite. It's Robert Manni, and he's going to talk about today how to find out if he's the one. And I know, ladies, you're dying to know how to figure this all out. But before we jump into it, I would love to tell you a little bit about Robert. Robert is the author of The Guy's Guide to Love, a novel praised as the men's successor to Sex in the City. Robert's website, robertmanni.com, features his syndicated blog on life, love, and the pursuit of happiness, media appearances, videos, and news. He is a featured blog talk radio host of Guys Radio, a weekly call-in podcast available on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, with over 200 shows featuring interviews with relationship experts, entertainers, writers, and sports personalities. Robert has been featured on ABC Radio's Men's Life with Slacker.com. He's also a regular contributor to Huffington Post and Cupid's Pulse, Eurotango, Thought Catalog, and Gal Time. Robert's social media pages can be found on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Goodreads. Robert developed the Guy's Guide platform to help men and women better understand each other and to bridge the communications gap between the sexes, which is exactly why I'm having him on this summit. He continually creates a fresh, robust palette of timely Guy's Guide content focused on life, love, and the pursuit of happiness. Whether it is navigating the challenges of modern dating, relationships, friendship, career, or wellness, Robert explores ways to help men and women be at their best so everybody wins. So welcome, Robert. I'm so excited to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me, and Happy New Year to you, Suzanne, and to all of your guests.
Well, I just have to add, because ladies, and you could see it in the video picture, is the picture of his book, and he showed it while I was reading his bio. I just have to say that this is one of the best books I've ever read. And I will admit, I hate admitting this because people look at me when I say this is funny, I'm not a big reader. But Robert gave me a copy of his book, and I just picked it up and said, oh, let me just see. And I picked it up and I couldn't put it down. It literally, ladies, if you love Sex in the City, which I was a huge fan of, it's the male version of Sex in the City, and you will love his book. So
thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, let's jump into it. So let's talk about how to find out if he's the right one, because I know, Robert, you have talked about that there's really like 5 simple questions a woman could ask to really kind of figure this out.
Yeah, it's really a path. This is for, this topic's really, it's not about the first date and not about the second date, really. Even though when you go through the process of dating, I know, having been on one side of the table, you can get grilled like a king salmon by some of the ladies, and rightly so, because they don't want to waste time, and they want to know who you are and what you are and how you serve and what you stand for. But once you get to really know somebody and they've kind of passed the ocular test and also just the energetic test, you want to feel, if you're considering them long term, you want to find out really what they're all about. And so I think there's a series of questions you can ask, and it takes you along a path of knowing who this guy is and if he might be considered keeper material long term. And the first thing is find out what he really wants to do, what his dream is. I found out that through a lot of dates, a lot of online dates. And by the way, I met my wife online through Match.com, and she contacted me, winked at me, and we've been together ever since. And so it can work. Online dating can work. But one of the things is about finding out what your guy has as a dream. What does he really want to do? Doesn't matter as much. You want to know if he's working, and if he's working full time, and you want to know how much bank he has some way or another, at least directionally. But the main thing is, what does he really want to do with his time here? And that's really important, because you can see what he's all about, where the passion comes from, because most men have a dream. And at the core of them, if you peel the layers away, they'll let you know what the dream is. And they like to talk about it if it's something they're passionate about. So I would suggest finding out what they really want to do. They might be in insurance, but they want to open a winery. Find that out. So that's number one.
So when you say that, and so are you talking about like 10, 20 years in the future, or just like within the next 5 years?
Yeah, that's a good point. There should, along with a plan and the dream, there should be some type of a path that they've laid out for themselves with some timing. I knew that I wanted to write and develop content, and I gave myself a timetable. And that, I think, if somebody just says they want to do something and they have no path or plan as to how to get there, they're just spewing and throwing things out there. And I think that may not be the type of guy you want to be with. You want to be with somebody who not only has a dream, but has a plan in terms of how to get there, because, you know, we really have to take steps. It's not just about dreaming, it's about doing also. And so you want your guy to be a romantic and to have a dream and to have passion, but also have thought through how to get there so you two can get there together.
Would you say that men are more planners by nature, like, you know, far in advance, for like they see the long range vision for their life and where they want to be in 10 years and then 20 years?
You know what? I think that's individual. I think it could be, it doesn't matter if you're a man or you're a woman. I think that's a human thing. And some people live to the day because, you know, ultimately the here and now is all that matters in some ways, but of course everything's connected. So we want to be on a path to be able to choose what we want, not necessarily to manifest what we want. It's really about choice and not about wanting, but about choosing what you want to do and then taking the action to get help from consciousness to get there. So there's a little bit of spirituality involved with these questions that you ask the guy to find out really what he wants to do, how he wants to get there, and what makes him tick. And you can also get a little bit about his moral compass by doing that. If he's just, you know, very linear, or if he believes in energy, and the same thing for you. In terms of, is this a guy thing? You know, guys can be very left brain, but that doesn't mean they all are. And I think a lot of guys have repressed a lot of their right side creativity and how they view life and how they view relationships and the romantic aspects of how they think. But it's there. And if you ask the right questions and you have a discussion and peel the layers away, you can find out if the guy, what his passion is, does he have a plan to get there, and what his timing is in terms of how much time he's giving himself to be able to accomplish some of these goals he has. And I think that's important also, because if you keep it too open-ended, it, you know, like anything else, you may never get to it. There's always something that's going to come up. You know, how many times have we wanted to do something and we just never get to do it because we're doing so many other things, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're 50 years old.
Right. So let's just I'll give you an example. So if a woman's dating a man for a year or 2 years, right, and she says to him, what does he want to do? And he kind of gives her a vague answer and is kind of like basically saying he doesn't really know. Is that a red flag? And is that for her an indicator of that he's not the right one?
Well, if he's doing, you know, if he's passionate about what he's doing and he's happy in his job and his career, and maybe it might not be an exciting career to you, but he's bringing home the money and this is what he likes to do, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think the majority of people are actually like that. So that, you know, you have to decide, do I want to be with this guy? He's in insurance, or he's a dentist, or whatever, based on what he tells you. Now, I think it's great if everybody, I think secretly though, has some type of dream about doing something beyond what they may be doing right now. Even if they're on a path heading that way, but even if they're, there goes my poster. Even if they're not on they fall off the path, they're still going to have a dream. So I think the key is having a dream is a really good thing when you're kind of qualifying a guy. A guy who doesn't have a dream, if he's happy what he's doing, that's great. If he has a dream and he can articulate it and he has a plan and he has a timetable, that's a good thing, because this is a guy who has a handle on life and what it's all about.
Exactly. Okay, so what's the second simple question a woman can ask?
Well, it's kind of, I think kind of piled on to about three of the questions, which is what do you want to do? What's his plan to get there? And what is his timing?
Hmm.
If he lays out something that makes a lot of sense there, and you can say, this guy, he's got it together, and I can vibe with his passion and his dream, and he's making the right moves to get there. That's a good thing. Um,
Right.
if he doesn't have a dream, he's just like doing what he enjoys for a career, and that's who he is. That's fine. Also, you have to decide, how you feel about him, and what the energy is between the two of you. The
Hmm.
fourth thing is really, if you want to find out a little more about if this is the right guy for you, is what type of challenges has he run into in life, and
Hmm.
what type of kind of victories or defeats has he had, and how has he handled those things? Because I think the test of a man a lot of times is how they dealt with diversity, adversity rather, not adversity. A lot of people have things handed to them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I have a lot of respect for people who've really worked their way through the system, and I think most people have had some real challenges, and
Hmm.
how they handle the challenges is equally as important as what their accomplishments are. So, and it also gives you a real insight as to what they value and how they've dealt with challenging situations, whether it be family, health, career, or otherwise. So I think that's those two questions are real good to ask also. What has been his biggest challenge, and how has he dealt with the challenges in terms of, what are some of the victories? What are some of the things he's had to work himself through? And maybe what are some of the defeats, and what were the lessons learned? Because that's it's all about, our journey and what we're learning, and what we can, how can we serve other people and humankind by the things we've learned and what we do.
Right. And I just want to add to that about the greatest challenges or setbacks that a man has had and how he's handled it. I think it's really important for the ladies out there to understand, because I hear all too often where women think that dating is so hard. And yeah, I'm not minimizing that dating isn't the easiest thing on earth, but it's not like it gets easier when you get into the relationship. It gets actually harder. And so you're going to have, like Robert talked about, is these challenges and these obstacles, and how you handle it, not only how he handles it on his own, but how you handle things together. That says a lot. You want to know how he's going to handle things, because a lot of stuff's going to come your way if you end up marrying him.
Hmm.
Right.
Absolutely.
So what's the fifth simple question that a woman could ask a man?
Well, I think a good way to kind of take his temperature on all of this stuff, and to see how authentic he is about what he's saying, about what he wants to do, and what his dream is, and what his plan is, and where is he? Like, what's the next steps? Where are you right now? What are you doing? What are you doing to get to that goal? And all of this stuff. You want to make sure he's a determined guy, but a fun person also, and that he has time for you. And I think those are, these five questions, and maybe there's seven, because some of the questions have two parts to them, will tell you a lot, I think, about what type of person you're dealing with very quickly. Because anybody can go out on a date and just talk about the chit chat, and
Mhm.
put on their game face and get through the date. But if you go
Right.
out a few times, you really want to get a sense as to who this guy is, because you're thinking like, this might be a keeper. Then I think you want to find out really what's at his core, who he is, what he's all about, and what are his plans, how's he going to get there, do you fit into the picture, and where is he in terms of that continuum and that journey with his plan. Has he
Right.
started it? Is he almost there? I will say that when I would go out with a lot of ladies on dates, online dates, whatever, that once I started to have, when I was president of an ad agency, that made it a lot easier than when I was struggling to get my novel sold.
Hmm.
I love the dream of, oh, you're writing, but like, you don't have an agent yet, then I could see the droopy face. So a lot of times for a guy, it's tough, because the women want the guy to be on that path further down than you may be.
Right.
Understandable, but I think you got to give guys a little bit of a break. If a guy has thought out who he is, what he wants to do, what his plan is, and he's working on it, I think that should be good enough in a lot of ways, depending on where you are with your plan and where you want to go. Because sometimes you're at point 2 on a scale of 10-step program, and maybe when you get past point 2, you can go right to point 6 very quickly. So you have to kind of determine for yourself, is this guy doing what he needs to do? Do I believe in him? And can he get there? Can I help him get there? And is he going to be a happy camper along the way?
Right. No, those are some really good points. And so because obviously, like how you talked about, these aren't the only 5 questions that a woman should ask in determining if he's the one. So I want to ask you more about in terms of like in qualities that he has, because all too often, and you and I have talked about this before, Robert, is about lists and what a woman's looking for. And sometimes I find that women's lists of must-haves and deal breakers is just too long. And sometimes no one's going to make that list and be the one because no one can meet it. And so can you give us your feedback on what you think about a woman's list of must-haves and deal breakers and what she should be looking for and what should be really important if he's the one?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a woman should be concerned with how a guy takes care of himself. I'm not talking about vanity, like he wants to go to the gym every day so he can look hot, but how is his wellness? How does he treat his body? Does he have is he in touch with who he is? Is he in touch with inside out? Does he have any type of spirituality that he carries into his day-to-day life? Does he meditate? Does he know how to quiet his mind? Does he know how to pay attention to you and actively listen? Is he nice to other people genuinely? Mm-hmm. Those type of things where, if you're going to spend a lot of time with somebody and be a partner, you want that partner to be somebody that you really like to be around, as well as, of course you want them to be attractive and smart and an earner, but you also want them to be somebody that you really respect and are simpatico in terms of your values and how you live and how you take care of yourself. I see so many guys my age who are married who they want to do more things spiritually and they want to do more things from a wellness standpoint, but they don't. And they don't realize, as men, particularly with all the stress as they get a little bit older, if they don't take care of themselves and things happen, it can go downhill very quickly. Whereas if you really keep up with yourself and eat cleanly and work out and then do things like yoga or meditation or Reiki and run and cardio and just not live a reactive life. I think that's incredibly important to being the type of person that a woman wants to spend their time with, because women have a little bit of a different view in terms of how they view the world, I think, a lot of times than men do. And I don't think you want it to have it so opposite that they're just doing their thing and living a completely different way and viewing the world completely differently than you are, maybe from a patriarchal standpoint versus a matriarchal standpoint. You want to have a similar vision. And I think women do take the time to take care of themselves, and they do get in touch with who they are. They communicate with each other as a group a lot more than guys. Guys, they don't share that much, and right. Bottled up and kept inside. So I think for a woman, you really want to be with a guy who knows how to express himself, who's comfortable talking about how he feels. I mean, you don't have to press him about having to talk all the time, but you want him to be comfortable enough that he can talk about any subject, that he's not too judgmental, that he's empathetic to other people, that that he sees the value in all people equally, treats the little guy as well as he does the big guy. And same thing with women. And he treats you great. He treats your mom great. He treats his mom great.
Yep. And you know what I'm going to add to that is that the man, his actions match his words,
Yes.
because all too often I hear women say to me, oh, well, he said this to me and he said this, but we never did it, or he never followed through. That's a red flag. A guy could say whatever he wants.
That's
I
very,
could say whatever I want, but if I don't follow through, how much are you going to trust me? How much are you going to want to be around me if I'm always flaking on you and not doing the things that I said I was going to do? You should hold the man to the same standards. If he says he's going to do something, and I don't mean being, like a total police officer, like you have to do this, because sometimes things fall through the cracks. But if you find like 50% of the time he's not doing what he said, that's a red flag, right, Robert?
yeah, absolutely. A couple of more things to consider is one, and I think this is hugely important, does the guy pay attention to you?
Mm-hmm.
And does he actively listen? Is he respectful? Because a lot of times guys, they pay attention to themselves and they're very self-focused. And that's fine because they've got a lot of, men have a lot of pressure on them these days in terms of they're not sure who they are. You've got millennials, they're caught between the MMA and manscaping, and you've got the boomers who they don't know what's going on. They define themselves through their wallet and their job. And they really, a lot of times, don't think out like, okay, who am I really?
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you're a woman, you got to make sure that the guy is going to be there, willing to pay attention to you, the little things. The way a woman pays attention to a guy needs to be reciprocated, or at least the guy's doing his best to evolve that way. I think that's huge.
Yeah, and I'm just going to add to this, because this kind of ties into a lot of the things that you were saying is, I know we all have lists of must-haves and deal breakers, and sometimes I see things on the must-haves list that I think are absolutely ridiculous. And I'm just going to give an example, is where a woman says, the guy has to be over 6 feet. Yeah, you know what? If you're 5'2" like me, you don't need a 6-foot guy and above. Okay, what is actually more important in the man that's with you for the long term is he the type of man that if you were to get sick tomorrow with, God forbid, cancer or something else, is he the type of man that's going to stick by you through thick and thin and be there for you and not say, yeah, you know what, I didn't sign up for this. I think we tend to think too much in the present. If he's the one, you need to think far ahead. Is he going to be there through all of these other things that could happen in life, right?
Yeah, absolutely true. Listen, it's fine to have a list and your wants, but at a certain point, you have to prioritize and pick out like what are the top 3 to 5 things that I want the guy to have. And if they're based on character, you can't. Physical is physical, and chemistry is chemistry. You're not going to be able to control that anyway. So you just got to let that happen, and that's the magic. That's called romance. But some, personal character things. Does he pay attention? Is he respectful? Is he a good guy? Is he, generous in terms of his time, his open-heartedness, and his wallet? Those are the things that you want, because if you're going to be hanging with this guy for, multiple years, you want him to be the type of person that can be a friend as well as a lover, and somebody that you're going to be sharing a lot of major decisions with also. But, when you're dating initially, I think it's fine that a lot of women have long lists, because it's just, it's fun, and there's so much dating going on now with all of the apps and all of the online dating that, fine. Over time, though, I think everybody will find that when they start to hone down a little bit, they'll start to realize, like, okay, what's important and what isn't as important. If you can have 30 things rolled up in one guy, great. But I think over time, you're going to find that you might have to make a couple of compromises. I'm not saying lower your standards, but have the most important things bubble up to the top and be weighted as such.
Exactly. And, sometimes I think people make the mistake in thinking that they're going to get 100% of what you're looking for. And I've rarely seen that happen. If it does happen for you, then you hit the jackpot. I mean, I can speak for myself. I didn't even get 100% what I was looking for, but I wasn't looking for 100% because I'm realistic. And I've been doing this a long time, and I know what's out there. But I think it's important to not be so steadfast on lists. That's not the important thing.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
Oh, so I just wanted to ask you too, because you talked about, what's their plan, what's their timing for their dream and work wise and things like that. I think, do you think it's important for women to also ask the man, what's his plan and his timing in his personal life? Like, does he want to be married? Does he want to have children? And finding out the timeline for that.
I think, at a certain point, you want to find that out as stealthily as you can, because otherwise it turns into the talk and the guy might be a little defensive. And a lot of times guys haven't thought that out. But I think the most important aspect of all of that is finding out if the guy has made room in his heart for a partner.
Okay.
Because if you make room for in your heart for a partner, then you can be ready for everything and everything can fall in place. If you have not made that room consciously, if you're a man, to be able to share with somebody else, it's going to be a hard time. You're going to have a hard time finding the one in a woman, because you have to have room for her. And I think the universe, if you will work with you when you've made room in your heart for somebody else. It happened for me. It was very interesting. I'd gone through a series of relationships. Couple of long-term relationships that didn't work out. I asked myself, I must be doing something wrong. And then I just kind of determined that, you know what, I'm ready now and I have to make room for somebody else. I don't know why I came to that conclusion, but I did. I actually told my mom over Thanksgiving. She had stopped even asking me when are you going to get married? And I said, you know what, I'm going to get married next year. And she's like, oh, that's great. And I'm like, I don't even know, but I know that it's going to happen. And I knew why, because I knew I was ready to make room. There was an opening there. And sure enough, I was engaged a year later. Now, okay, maybe that's fairy tale stuff, but I really think it was important to be ready, if you're a man, to be ready and have room for somebody else in your life, because people are busy and they just want everything now. And at a certain point, you have to transcend that and say, okay, I know who I am. I know what works for me. I know how to choose what I want and go for it. But I also, if I want to be with somebody else, I have to have room for them. I have to have room in my consciousness, in my heart, for somebody else to share with. I don't mean to get all ethereal about this, but I really think it's part of the whole thing, because we are people and we're all connected.
No, and I will add to this, Robert. I'm so glad you shared that story, because it's very true. You have to open up your heart and make room for it, because what I see a lot of people do is they have these walls up, they have these blocks up. I'm too busy, and I've had men, because I work with men too, is men tell me is, oh, she's so busy with work, she doesn't have time for a relationship. And I get it, work's important, but if you really want the right man in your life, you have to make time. You make time for work. You need to make time for this. And I love that Robert shared a story, because I'm going to share my own personal story too. It's the same thing. I was always putting work first, and Robert knows how hard I work. I work my ass off. But there, at one point, I just said, you know what? This is important to me. I just knew. I didn't know who it was going to be, but I knew I was going to get married within that year, and I didn't get married within the year, but I got engaged within the year. And it's because I opened up my energy. And whether you're spiritual or not, I'm telling you, energetically, I've seen it. Once you open it up and say, it's going to happen for me, I'm making room for this, it will happen, because my clients have done the same thing.
Definitely. High five on that, because I'm glad to hear that. I'm in that crazy direction for your listeners, but I really think that's part of it. And all of us, we're so busy that it's important to pull back and say, okay, what are my priorities? And if my priority is finding the right partner and I have somebody in mind, well, let me find out what they're really all about. And then also at the same time, determine, have you made room in your heart to be able to have somebody else come in?
Exactly. I love that you shared that story, and I know the ladies love that story too. So, Robert, these have been some amazing tips, and I think it's really going to help women clarify if he's quote unquote the one, and if he's not, that's okay. Then just move on.
That's right.
Don't waste time. I think I've seen way too many times where people waste time even trying to make it work when they know deep down inside intuitively that he's not the one. So
Yeah, and the same thing. I mean, I think that's the number one thing that we all do. We think we can make it work, and instead of just saying, you know what, letting it go, or you're not getting enough love from your partner, and like, who wants to be with somebody ultimately who doesn't love them the way you love them, who doesn't love you the way you love them? So it's
exactly.
incredibly important that we get in touch with who we are, what we have to offer, and what the other person's all about, and are they being available to us emotionally, physically, spiritually, and just as a partner.
Exactly. Well, Robert, these have been some amazing tips. So, Robert, I know you have a free gift for the ladies, right?
Yes. If you go to my website, excuse, there's a siren outside,
That's
Robert
okay.
Manni, MANNI.com. If you go to my website and go to the page about my novel, there is you can download with a link the first three chapters of the novel. You can check out the reviews on Amazon, and you can pick up either the digital version at I think it's like $3.99 or something, or the physical book. And I think you'll enjoy it, and check out the reviews. This is again, the guy's guide to love. It's like a male Sex in the City. And also you can find me every week on Guys Radio, where I interview a lot of relationship experts like Suzanne, as well as a lot of people in the wellness and the spiritual area. And it's a lot of fun. And we've got a growing audience, and it's call-ins. I've had psychics on, and lots of different people. And you can find me on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and we're going to be on Google Play very soon.
Awesome. So, ladies, like Robert said, the first 3 chapters of his book you can get for free. And you can just click on the link on this page where the interview is, and you can go get those free chapters. And ladies, I will personally, like you heard at the beginning of this interview, I've read his book. It's good. If you like Sex in the City, you will love this book because it's the male version of it. And I'm like waiting for Robert to come out with the second book. Is it coming out soon?
We've got a bunch of balls in there. Actually, some guys nonfiction books are being pitched by my agent, and I'm working on a sequel. And as you know, I have the TV series developed and a screenplay that's won some prizes and stuff. But it's all, the whole guys movement is about when men and women can be at their best, everyone wins. Better men, better world. Robert Manni, MANNI.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Robert, for being a part of the summit. And ladies, thank you so much for joining us on the Secrets About Men Summit. What men wish you knew, but will never tell you.